Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's activity and work session. My name is Dr. Derrick Fox. I'm here at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, in Omaha on a very stormy night. Holy cow. So tonight we're going to do ourselves a huge favor and start working proactively towards creating what I've entitled future teaching practices. It was a term that I totally came up with. You won't find it in anybody's textbook anywhere. But this came about because I felt the need to really help propel us in a direction towards positivity and thinking about how we could work actively together to create teaching strategies and ideas that would allow us to pivot any way that we needed to in order to keep choral music in the lives of our students in whatever way we're required to starting in the fall. And so tonight we're going to share some ideas. I sent you the shared form. Hopefully you got a chance to look through the variety of ideas that have been shared already. There's so many great things and so many great thoughts that are already occurring in our profession to help us out. But I want tonight to kind of set the pace of what's going to be happening. I wanted to show you a few things just to model for you what we want to do tonight and what we want to come up with. So I've included 3 plans of my own in the group. And so I want to share with you something that you may find helpful. This is the first time I've shared my screen from my iPad. So if it doesn't work, I'll just keep you all on mute so I can't hear your laughter. So one of the things that I've employed, and my own children love it, is entitled the Blob Course. So the things that we create do not have to be the most complex, and sometimes the things that are not most complex can be most engaging. So this resource is one that I put. This resource is one that I put into play or put into the form because I think it's a great way to engage students and the idea of pitch matching. You can see that there's the king blob, and students get the opportunity to go and choose a blob that works for them. Blob. And I chose the one that matched pitch. Blob, blob, blob. If you choose the one that doesn't match pitch, it explodes. So it's a great way to keep students engaged in while they're not with you. And it could be done synchronously or asynchronously. You could also set up a competition amongst your students. So there are a lot of different ways that we can engage our students at many different levels to give them the skills and hone the skills that they'll be using virtually or in the classroom, or a combination of both, because some of us have been tasked to do that as well. Another idea that you might take with you and think about tonight, sometimes your students won't be able to have access to some of these apps, but they're able to be with you virtually. And you want them to begin to think about the activities that you do when you do begin to sing. So one of the things that I did with my university students was I used the piece entitled Lineage. And I had the students, we sang the piece, but in the piece it talks about the strength of a grandmother. And so I had the students actually go and interview someone in their family who exemplified that strength that was represented in the piece. And how amazing would it be for your students, if they have grandparents who they can't touch, hug, or love on, to have a conversation like this, either over the phone and write down some of those things. And maybe your students can create videos that explain their conversation or even record the conversation. And then you compile them and use them within your own classroom. That's an idea that could be a 1 classroom idea, or it could be put across an entire week or even 2 weeks. So I'm thinking creatively at that level. The last app that I'd like to show you is entitled Arpeggio. And this is another one that will allow you to engage students in activities that reinforce the things that you already do in your classroom. Let's see if I can do this one more time. Arpeggio, I know it works on the iOS system, but basically when you go in, I can pick basic interval comparison. And I have to pick what I think which interval, did I do that correctly? If I think it tells me if I was correct or incorrect based on what it played. You probably can't see what I'm seeing. So I'm gonna stop that one and go into the rhythmic dictation. So if I go in and do, it tells me if I was right or wrong. And at the end of this, or let's quit that. I can go in and see my own progress, and you can see that I have a little line showing me what day I did it on. And then underneath here, I can see my score. And if I click on that, it tells me the days that I worked on and the areas that I need help in. That's a wonderful tool for reinforcing the musical skills that I know that you want your students to have. And tonight is about being really creative about how that app can be helpful in your classroom if your students are able to download it or if they're one-to-one. So what I wanted to do with this at the very beginning is to model that for you so that we make sure we stay driven on the product tonight and we stay driven on trying to create. The goal is that each of our groups come up with one future teaching practice. So tonight we have facilitators joining us. We have with us Gretchen Harrison, Tom Shelton, Dr. Patrick Freer, Dr. Ryan Sullivan, Dr. Gary Packwood, and Dr. Kelly Miller. In just a second, I'm going to move you into breakout sessions, and these folks are going to tell you a little bit more about you, a little bit more about what we're going to be doing tonight. But before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Miller to talk to you about the goals and the guidelines for tonight, how we're going to conduct our business so that we can keep moving in a positive way while I take care of the breakout rooms.
All right. Great, thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm really just reading this off of what Derrick has already sent out, but just to kind of keep us all on the same page, maybe you have already read this, and if not, this is just to kind of, again, keep our eye on the prize here. We absolutely, with respect for one another, want to make this a product-driven workshop. We want to create these new lessons. We'll be asking if you have already uploaded one of your future teaching practices. If no one has something creative to get started right away, we can look at modifying something if needed. So we'll just start with that. We'll be giving suggestions on how we can immediately implement these lessons into your specific community. Everybody's going to be coming from a different place, so we'll be helping out with that. We also want to really keep the energy focused on being creative tonight. We all have our worries and are all dealing with different stressors, so we just want to encourage one another to really be as creative as possible tonight. Creativity can be a coping mechanism, Dr. Fox has here. We are all partners in this conversation, so don't feel like you can't share. Sometimes it's daunting to be sharing with one another online, just as if we're face to face, but we really want to encourage everybody to participate. However, if you want to just kick back and listen, we're going to differentiate the instruction, and you do you, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. So we will just want to make sure we welcome everybody for sharing. Also, if you're someone that has no problem sharing, let's make sure everyone gets the opportunity to do so. We'll encourage that, but we want to lift each other up as we do that. Just being mindful of everybody's ideas. We're all in different stages in this process, different places all over the place. So some may be coming with high energy, some may be low, whatever. Again, you do you. And we will just really hope that you can take these practices and envision them immediately in your classroom and just adapt as you need to go. Dr. Fox, you want me to keep going?
Awesome. If you covered everything, we're ready to go into our breakout sessions. We will spend about 25 minutes with each other, just establishing and a rapport at the beginning. Like I said, your facilitators will tell you a little bit more about them. And then immediately we'll jump into the brainstorming and creating these ideas. Each of your facilitators will also function as the secretary, quote unquote, in your room. The executive secretary, make them a little more fancy, in your room, and taking notes and putting things into the form so that when we come out of this, we have at least 7. Hopefully, if you're really, really on it tonight and you really got that energy in you, you can come up with 2, and we have 14 more ideas to put into the shared folder that will go out to anyone. So I'm gonna unmute you all, and then I'm gonna open up the breakout rooms, which you should go into automatically. So happy working. I'll be popping in all of your rooms, and I'll see you shortly. Thanks, everybody. All right, welcome back, everybody. That went by really, really fast. I heard some wonderful conversations happening, and I'm excited to hear all of the different plans that we've come up with. We're going to have a little moment of sharing out before we close out things. We probably have about 12 good minutes to be able to share. So whoever the facilitator is, or whoever the person in your group who you've deemed to be the speaker for what you came up with, you can unmute yourself, and I will tell you which group we'll start with so you don't all unmute at the same time. My little computer can't take it all at once. So that we can hear what you came up with and some of the great ideas that have been coming around, so that we can add to the idea bank that's going to be useful for all of us. So why don't we start with Gretchen's group?
Happy to. My group has been focusing quite a bit on the social emotional part of teaching our kids in a remote fashion. So we decided to go different. We decided to go into a curricular thing and focus on sight reading from a particularly non-technological base, although we did mention some great apps that we could use. And their idea was the teacher could make modeling videos where they would sing a particular segment, and the students would identify those segments, respond in some way. They would then be able to add on to those segments. They could pass the segments through the class, starting with segment A, linking into segment B, going into segment C. They could do all sorts of different kinds of identifying activities, whether it's solfege or identifying the rhythms that are being performed. So I was pretty excited about what my kids came up with. They're top of the class.
And you are able to put that into a form so that if someone else in this group read that, they can understand the logistics to it and how to implement that in their classroom.
It will be so clear.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Gretchen and Gretchen's group. I appreciate you all being really active in the process. Let's move on to Tom's group.
Hi, everybody. My group was amazing. And I'm just going to list all the ideas they came up with. And then Laura from my group, she lives in New York, is going to share because she had actually submitted 2 already. So Sight Reading Factory, Flipgrid, creating a choir-related meme, a parody song project, sound effects project, guided listening project, a DJ project of favorite songs, and then isleoftune.com. I don't know if you know that, I did not. And then Kahoot as well. And then Laura is going to share one of hers.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I'm teaching in upstate New York, grades 3 through 12. One of the things we talked about was Sight Reading Factory, which a lot of people know about, but not as many people necessarily know that you can make a classroom and assignments in there. So they've made free, at least through June, but they might make it free if we continue this distance learning, student accounts, so that you set up a classroom and students can join your classroom and you create actual assignments. You can read the actual full thing for all the details of how to do that, but what we talked about in the group was our struggles and how students really interacted with the Sight Reading Factory, because some of them had no idea, oh wait, how do I even start on the right pitch? Or I have no idea which way up and down I'm supposed to be singing, and others have made steady progress. So I forget, was it Wendy? Wendy and I were saying, try to make it as specific as possible, as simple as possible, just keep it the 4/4, maybe assign an instrument. I had some kids pick out rhythm only by accident, or like a tuba part. And I'm like, no, you're not doing that one, you're doing a voice part. But it doesn't let you select just voice because it's all different instruments. So keeping it as specific as possible. And I've found it was really helpful. Someone mentioned to give like a video explaining exactly how to do it, because a lot of them, their reading skills, especially in my district, are really low. So they just kind of skim it all and say, wait, I don't get it. So making sure you have a video to show you how to do it, some simple 4/4 simple examples to do, and then giving feedback afterwards. I always like to say, you know, great job, I love you got the do, mi, so right there. Watch out when you go from system to system because you got off and then didn't know where you were. So that's what we were talking about, trying to help kids with the struggles with that.
And Laura has already uploaded hers, actually 2, and hers were very systematic and step by step. So even if you didn't know anything about it, you would even she did her lesson plan. Good, Laura. And everybody in my group, they have great ideas, and they've all said that they're going to put them on this Google Drive.
All right, great. Tom, you had some computer issues that made you sound like a rapper for a moment there. I appreciate that. That's what they do at Westminster now. A little rap, a masters in rap. All right, work it. All right, so thanks for sharing from that group. Let's move on to Patrick Freer's group. Dr.
Hi, we
Freer.
had 7 folks, so we're going to call it all from different states. So we call ourselves the 7-state nation. Exactly what we do. Anyway, Carrie Hall, one of the members of our group, I'm going to ask her at the end to tell us about, this was something that she had implemented, and what I'm going to ask her to relate what were the successes, what she would change, or what was difficult, because we didn't get that far in the plan. But this came about from starting from a position of wanting to know, checking in for socio-emotional issues, but also access issues, knowledge issues, what students were able to do or what they disliked. And so we devised, started out with a simple questionnaire that then the more we talked about it, the more excited I think we all got, at least I did, about how it could be adapted and how it could be made very specifically musical. So the questions, there were 4 big questions on this questionnaire. The first one is the one that was easiest to move to the beyond the generic to the musical, being, what have you found to be engaging or positive during this shift to distance learning? And you could then modify that with, do you prefer singing activities? Do you like a checklist of do you like, watching educational clips and writing responses? Or do you like teaching someone that you know about music, for instance, the hand signs, or interviewing others about music, etc.? This could be totally adaptable. Category 2, what did you want more opportunities to do, again, during this shift? Category 3, what were the obstacles you faced for completing coursework during quarantine, and those that were specific to choir? And then category 4, is there anything that you need to be more successful in choir or other classes? And then we talked about how this helps flip the classroom a little bit, talked about all sorts of extensions that could even involve going out into the community, to family members, to people in old folks' homes, if that's somewhere, if it's possible to create a connection there. All sorts of different things, and we'll share all those ideas on this forum. Carrie, can you share very quickly what you would change or what you found to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really important for me, as we've been in distance learning for 6 weeks, of checking in and finding out what is working really well for them, what do they find enjoyable or successful at home, and what are they finding more challenging, and so that I can be more data-driven. Administration loves that term, but more data-driven about where I go from there and what my students need help with, and giving me ideas of how to meet my kids' needs better. So I did a form the first week that we had class and find out what needs, like device needs, that they had. And then last week I did just a check-in form to find out about those things. So it's been really successful. I highly suggest you do like a temperature check with your kids.
Yeah, and Carrie, have you put that into, or did your group put that into the form so that we can maybe recreate that?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you so much. That's really important. Hearing from, like I said, the Country Music Association Foundation and their work with the Department of Education and some other bigger umbrella groups that send things to Department of Educations that then come back to us. I'm hearing a lot about social emotional learning, and that's a component that we'll need to, alongside the musicianship, we'll need to be thinking about that as well. And sometimes it can fold in really easily. So thanks for focusing on that. Let's go to Dr. Ryan Sullivan's group.
All right, so we focused on an activity that was actually pushed out by Alfred Music a few weeks ago. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see. It's called a Singo board, like bingo, but it's a Singo. Oh, Dr. Fox, it says I'm unable to.
Oh, you aren't?
Share my screen. That's okay.
Yeah, that's how I like it. No, here you go. There you go.
That's all right. So
I hope that worked. Okay.
There we go. So everyone can take a look. There's a variety of activities here, and what we liked about this is that it provides teachers maximum flexibility because it can be done asynchronously. It could be done synchronously in a classroom, or at least some of the activities. Or it could be done, if you're a teacher, some schools even have check-ins, weekly check-ins with students. You could be doing that one-on-one via Zoom. So there are activities here like teach a family member or a friend a song. So there's really high level learning involved in that. Composition, writing, researching your favorite musician, fun things like creating a choir meme or composing a choir warm-up. Again, involving a lot of higher level thinking and critical thought here. So again, what we liked was that it had maximum flexibility. The biggest challenges are your students' access to technology. So if you have students who have limited access, or you have a mix of both, you need to make sure that you adjust the tiles that the vast majority of your students, or all of your students, are going to be able to participate and be able to win the bingo, however you want to set that up. You know, it can be a traditional, you know, draw the line, or it could be 4 corners, or get 1 tile out of each column, however you want to set that up. And the other thing is that it again allows teachers flexibility. So this could be 2 weeks worth of musical learning, because again, some schools have a really slow feedback loop in terms of what students can submit for work. And so Brian, who's in our group, had a form via Teams, or some of you may be using the Google platform, some way of collecting the work and showing some evidence of one of the activities that you did. Maybe not all of it. You probably don't want an email for every tile that a student crossed out, but yeah, that was it.
All right, thanks, Ryan. And you all will put that into the form so we can share that out as well and be recreated.
Sure will.
All right, thank you so much. Let's move on to Dr. Gary Packwood. Where are you? Oh, do I need to unmute you, Gary? I can't find you. Hold on, Gary. Okay, there you go.
Am I there now? Okay,
Yep.
hey. Okay, so our group was great. Ryan, I'm gonna mess up your last name. Ochena, is that right, Ryan? Yeah, no? Close enough. The only Ryan in our group. Ryan talked about one that he had submitted, first of all, which was really great. And you can go to the Google Doc and check that out. But it was through breezing through theory? I think that's it, Ryan. I don't see you anywhere. .com, but look for Ryan's. But what we did was we thought about a lesson called error detection, where, and someone mentioned, I don't remember who it was, mentioned that they were in a webinar last week where a band director was talking about playing their instrument and they might play a wrong rhythm or a pitch, and the students listened and tried to detect the incorrect error. So we took that farther and decided how could we use that in voice or in choir and singing, or even in general music, just basic error detection. So we might make a video of a musical excerpt, something, and we thought about prior knowledge. So you're going to have to know your students. Is this something that they, prior knowledge, something that they are somewhat familiar with, and then you sing in that video clip where you make an error error, and they have to detect that error. It could be rhythmic, and it could be melodic, and then as you progress through, it could be rhythmic and melodic. It could be expressive qualities. It could be the incorrect diction. So there are lots of ways to take this lesson, and a lot of ways to take the lesson and make it specific to your students. We talked a lot about taking these lessons and make them, hopefully you know your students at some level, or you're getting to know them if they're new students, but taking a lesson like this, error detection, and creating it to fit your needs. And then we even talked about how we could, you could show this piece of music, sing it, and then they could talk about why you think they chose this dynamic, or why do you think they chose this tempo. Now we're getting into a little bit of higher order thinking and being able to connect some expressiveness with it as well. You could sing the wrong dynamic. You could, I think there are lots of things you could take the elements of music and just sort of go through the gamut and move this thing along. And it could be a unit plan, really, more than just one lesson. Did I leave anything out? Because I probably did. Okay. I told my group to speak up if I left something.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that, Ryan. It's good to see you again, too. It's been a long time, man. Yeah, bringing a lot of people from the past. And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Gary. You still going? Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm working on typing it up. So.
Are you? Okay. Thank you so much for being the facilitator, and thanks everybody for being a part of that. I also need to make a huge apology before I let Dr. Miller take us on. I was supposed to have 7 groups tonight, and I specifically asked my colleague, Dr. Katrina Cox, to be here tonight to lead one of those groups. And I had 7 groups made, and then I went back to the form I made before I asked her, and there were only 6 names. And so I only made 6 groups, and I accidentally left her out of her own group, and I appreciate her for being a good sport. And that's my one mistake for the year. So I just want to go ahead and admit that while I'm with you all. And I'm recording this too, so I can record my first mistake of the year. But so thank you, Katrina, for being here, and I'm so sorry. Let's go on to Dr. Kelly Miller to wrap us up with our sharing, and then I have a couple things that I want to share with you before we leave, so we can get out of here at least in the next few minutes. Dr. Miller, go for it.
Okay, I'll go fast. Again, my group of rock stars, amazing master teachers. Karen uploaded a lesson this afternoon that was called 5, 6, 7, 8 Show Up. So show up and check that out. Jeff has had success with virtual choir, so he's gonna with iMovie, so he's gonna do something for that. And there's a couple of folks too that are gonna be adding different lessons. We worked this evening on a compare and contrast where you have two choirs perform the same song, and you give them the text, and then they can talk about tone or vowel shape, articulation, breathing, phrasing, syllabic stress, word stress, all sorts of things. You could do visualizations from that, drawing pictures, a PowerPoint, journal entries. If you don't want to deal with extra paper, have them do journal entries and things along with that. But I can't type fast enough, so I will get that uploaded as an FTP, and then to take off of that, the next version could be a continuation where once you've done compare and contrast and you could do it with 6th grade choirs, you can do it 7th and 8th, you can do, adapt for whatever age group you would like, and then have them start to analyze their own performances. And you can use your state, music performance assessment, district contest, evaluations in there too, so they start getting used to that kind of language. But really great creative folks, and we'll be adding those all to the Google Doc.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So before we get out of here, I'd like to offer you just a few more ideas for you to put into your bank. I haven't uploaded these to the Google machine yet, but one of the ones that I thought about is if you are having difficulty having your students participate in the virtual choir, another idea is maybe changing the purpose for why you're doing that virtual choir. Sometimes we do them and it's for the purposes of posting them for performance, but what if you told your students the purpose was for maybe you connect with another high school, you connect with a middle school or junior high school, and your students are making those recordings as practice tracks for somebody else's choir, as opposed to we're going to put this up and put it on a social media platform. Maybe changing the purpose behind it will encourage more students to be involved in that. I know we have some talented students in our choir, but I made it a voluntary project. Out of 51, only 17 wanted to do that. I wanted to spend the time to do that. But I know the students and I know their heart. And I know if I would have said it was for some kind of giving, because we've done other activities that way before where we were able to get books and donate them to a daycare center in town, and they were fully on board with that. So maybe changing the purpose of why you're creating those virtual recordings will encourage students to be a part of that. If you are doing work in the virtual choir area and you do need some help, I know that there's a new form going around called Core or More. And you can find a link to the resources. Trey and I were on a webinar for California ACDA, California Choral Directors Association, and he sent me the links, and you can find that in the resources folder. And he gave me 2 links. If you go into the resources folder and you look at additional resources, that's a Word doc, you can find that in there and click on those 2 links and get more information about how they can help you through navigate that process and give you some different purposes for using and doing virtual choir. The other thing is engaging students without apps. I used to do this thing called interval attendance, particularly with my middle school, but you can do it with all of them because all of them need interval help. And it was in the process of calling roll. So I might go, Carrie Hall, and then she would have to sing back to me, minor second. And you can do that anonymously on your Zoom because everybody would be muted except for the person that you're with. And you can record that like I am now, and go back, and if your school is allowing you to do assessment and you need to have assessment, this is a way for you to do that. Or if it's just an enrichment activity, because I know a lot of people have told me that their choral experiences are now pass or fail. Even though they're pass or fail, it doesn't change the quality of our engagement as teachers because we're here as teachers. And our role and our energy that we put into that doesn't change. And so I just wanted to share those things with you. And the last one that I'll share with you, that'll make you self-conscious, is if you want to relive some of the memories with your students that you've had over the past year, you should make recordings of yourself face on conducting the piece. Turn the recording off, send them that video, and ask them to describe what piece you're conducting and how they know. So not only does it become an assessment for you, it's an assessment for them. If the reason that they know the piece is because you're mouthing every single word, then you know why they aren't singing dynamics, because they're looking at your mouth. And when you come back with your choir, you're going to be even better because now you have a way to focus your own practice as a conductor teacher during this pandemic. Anyhow, we have come to the end of our time together. This was a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, but I believe in us and I believe in you, and I know we can put our brains together and our energy and our love for our students and our art so that we can make sure that choral music is still alive in whatever form it needs to be for whomever is with us in our classrooms. I will upload all of these things to all of the FTPs that we create. I'll upload them all so that you can all have access to them. And I put this in the form. If you felt like this was worthwhile and you'd like to do it again, send me an email and let me know. I'm going to do one for high school because I believe in it. I believe in us. I believe in our students, and I believe in the power of choral music. So thank you very much. Thank you to our facilitators. Everybody have a great night. I'm going to go eat that good dinner I cooked before we started. Thanks, everybody.